Have you ever felt hurt by a fleeting comment, a sideways glance, or a casual remark that kept you thinking all day, sleepless all night? Have you ever wondered why you feel so fragile? Why a small slight can unleash an emotional flood you can't control? If you've been there, you're not alone. Many in today's world struggle with heightened sensitivity, unaware that the root of this unrest lies not in others, but in how they react to the world around them. Stoic philosophy, or Stoicism, isn't a dry ideology for the unfeeling. On the contrary, it's the pinnacle of the art of living, a compass for cultivating calmness, resilience, and mental freedom, no matter life's storms. This video isn't just about being less sensitive. It's about learning to master yourself, escaping the trap of impulsive emotions, so that others' words or actions no longer control your state of mind. You can't change everyone, but you can change how you respond, and that will change your entire life. If you're ready to embark on this journey of inner growth, watch this video to the end. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on future Stoic content, because true peace always begins within. Number 1, developing a growth mindset and emotional balance. A growth mindset and emotional balance aren't lofty concepts reserved for ancient sages. They're skills anyone can practice in daily life. When you feel overly sensitive, easily hurt, or swayed by others' words or actions, it's not a verdict on your character, but a sign you need to strengthen your inner management. Stoic philosophy teaches that you weren't born to be ruled by emotions, but to master them, like a trainer taming a wild horse. To do this, you must start at the root. Shift your mindset from fixed to growth. A fixed mindset believes personality, emotions, and reactions are set in stone. People think, I'm sensitive because I was born this way. I can't change. But a Stoic sees those same vulnerabilities and says, this is my chance to practice. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman philosopher emperor, wrote in Meditations that obstacles don't block your path. They are the path. This means every time you feel offended or hurt, instead of seeing it as failure, treat it as an exercise in cultivating calm. The moments you're most tempted to react fiercely are your greatest opportunities to grow. To develop a growth mindset, remind yourself daily, emotions aren't fate, they're skills. If you're not great at controlling them today, that's okay. You'll improve tomorrow if you start observing, identifying, and refusing to let them lead you. Sensitive people often let their minds be hijacked by others' judgments, spiraling into negativity. They don't care about me. They meant to hurt me. I'm not good enough. These thoughts erode confidence. But Stoics think differently. They believe events are neutral. It's our interpretation that creates pain or peace. One effective way to build emotional balance is to pause for a single second before reacting to anything. That 1 second can mean the difference between shouting at someone and staying calm. Epictetus said it's not events that cause us suffering, but how we think about them. This means you have the power to choose your response. To do so, you need a stable emotional foundation, unshaken by fleeting waves of discomfort or hurt. A growth mindset also requires honest self-confrontation. Ask yourself, why am I so sensitive? What am I trying to control? What am I afraid of losing? When you dare to face the root of your emotions, you'll see many things aren't worth your distress. You might feel sad over rejection, but the real pain may come from feeling abandoned or unrecognized. Understanding your emotions is the first step to transforming them. Emotional balance doesn't come from suppressing or denying feelings, but from realizing emotions are like waves. You don't need to swim with them. Just let them pass. Stoics aren't unfeeling, but they don't let emotions dictate actions. They cultivate such inner stability that no one can steal their peace unless they allow it. This is a long process requiring daily practice, but it's the most worthwhile journey you'll ever take. If this resonates with your thoughts or feelings, hit like to let me know you're on this journey. Leave a comment about the last time you overreacted, not to feel shame, but to start anew. Share this video with someone who needs to learn calm, as you might spark their transformation. Subscribe today to gain daily inner strength through Stoic insights. Number 2, embracing imperfection and practicing self-compassion. One reason we become overly sensitive is our relentless pursuit of perfection in others' eyes. We fear being misunderstood, judged, not good enough, or failing to meet expectations. When someone, intentionally or not, touches that insecurity, we react with extreme emotions like sadness, hurt, or anger. But have you ever wondered, does the perfection you're chasing actually exist? And if it doesn't, why sacrifice your peace to pursue it? Stoic philosophy makes it clear. All humans are imperfect, and embracing that imperfection is the first step to truly living free as yourself. Seneca wrote, "Forgive yourself as you would a close friend." Yet ironically, many of us torment ourselves with unrealistic expectations, criticizing every mistake and agonizing over very human flaws. The higher we set the bar, the easier we're disappointed. And the more disappointed we are, the more likely we overreact to everything around us, like a tightly wound nerve waiting for the slightest touch to explode. Stoics don't teach you to always be right, good, or in control. They teach you to face the truth. You will make mistakes, feel weak, and fail. What matters is not judging yourself for it, but learning from it with compassion and awareness. Remember, you can't turn off emotions, but you can learn to observe them without being consumed. When you accept your imperfections, you stop trying to hide or fight every feeling that arises. Instead, you see it as a natural part of being human. You're sad because you're human. You're angry because you have expectations. You're anxious because you care. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But if you don't learn to embrace yourself in those moments, emotions will overwhelm you, and you'll overreact to the smallest things. Self-compassion isn't about indulging yourself. It's about being grateful for trying your best in a chaotic world. It's telling yourself, I wasn't perfect today, but I'm growing. When you're compassionate with yourself, you expect less from others to always be kind or understanding. And when you expect less, you react less negatively when they let you down. It's a simple but profound chain. Forgiveness starts within. Stoics practice an exercise called premeditatio malorum, visualizing potential setbacks. Not to be pessimistic, but to prepare your mind to accept failures, mistakes, and flaws as natural parts of life. When you're ready to embrace your own imperfections, others' reminders of them won't hurt as much. Someone says you're not good enough, you'll smile and think, I know, but I'm working on it. Someone disappoints you, you'll realize they're as imperfect as I am on their own journey. Imagine being your own best friend. Would you berate that friend for being tired, vulnerable, or overreacting? Of course not. So why do it to yourself? Self-compassion is the invisible strength that helps you recover faster from emotional blows. It doesn't erase pain, but it gives you a foundation to avoid collapsing when someone hurts you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste time arguing what a good person is. Be one." In Stoic terms, a good person isn't perfect but persistent, compassionate, and guided by reason despite emotional chaos. When you truly accept yourself, cracks and all, you won't be easily shaken by others' looks or words. You'll stand firm like a tree with deep roots, unmoved by the light breeze of judgment or criticism. If you've ever been trapped by perfectionism or felt unworthy for not being enough, give yourself a chance to start again. You don't need to be strong immediately. Just learn to say each day, I'm not perfect, but I'm still worthy of love. If this message resonates, hit like to fuel your journey in others. Leave a comment about what you're learning to accept in yourself. Sharing can be the best way to heal. Subscribe if you want more Stoic insights to build inner strength, because true calm starts where you learn to be kind to yourself. Number 3, setting healthy boundaries and communicating clearly. One of the root causes of why we're easily hurt or overreact to others' words or actions lies in the absence of clear boundaries in relationships. Without knowing what to allow or refuse, you're prone to feeling violated without a healthy way to respond. This leaves you feeling used, disrespected, and increasingly sensitive, as your mind interprets any word or gesture as a boundary breach. Stoic philosophy isn't just about inner reflection. It's also the art of wise, rational interaction with others. A crucial part of this is setting personal boundaries. Clear but not hostile, firm but not cold, gentle but not weak. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if someone wrongs you, they may do so because they don't know what's right. But this doesn't mean you must accept every negative behavior as if you're an emotional dumping ground. Setting boundaries isn't about creating distance, it's about fostering respect. By showing others your limits, you guide them to treat you appropriately while protecting your inner peace from unnecessary disruption. A Stoic isn't someone who always keeps the peace at all costs. They're someone who discerns what's worth engaging with and what to firmly reject. Lacking boundaries makes you vulnerable because you feel you have no right to say no. When someone says something upsetting, but you force a smile and stay silent, you're bottling up emotions that will eventually erupt into extreme reactions. Clear, honest communication is the antidote. Learn to say, "I'm not comfortable with how you're speaking," or "I'd like to pause this conversation and revisit it when we're both calmer." This isn't weakness. It's a sign of emotional intelligence and self-respect. Stoicism teaches that strength lies in saying no when needed. Not out of spite, but from a clear understanding of your mental stability's value. Saying no is a skill to practice, not an impulsive reaction. It doesn't require long justifications or anger. Sometimes a gentle, "I'd prefer not to participate," or "that approach doesn't work for me," is enough to set your boundary. If someone disregards it, stepping away from that relationship may be the best way to protect yourself. Just as you set a password on your phone to keep strangers out of your personal data, emotional boundaries shield your mental life from intruders. Sadly, many see defending themselves as selfish, when it's actually the foundation of healthy relationships. Clear communication not only frees you from lingering discomfort, but also helps others adjust their behavior positively. No one can read your mind. If you don't speak, they won't know. If you keep enduring, you'll soon explode. And when you do, you'll regret it. This is the emotional cycle a true Stoic aims to break from the start with one simple act: speaking calmly but directly. Boundaries aren't just words. They're shown through consistent attitudes and actions. If you say you need quiet time but reply to messages at midnight, you're undermining your own boundary. If you say you won't tolerate being yelled at, but stay in environments that belittle you, you're betraying yourself. Stoics stress living consistently between thoughts and actions. This consistency is what sustains long-term emotional stability. You can't stay calm if you let others trample your limits daily without speaking up. Start small: a conversation that feels off, a disrespectful act, a comment that feels misjudged. Instead of silently enduring, respond clearly but calmly. It may feel hard at first, but each time you advocate for yourself, you reinforce confidence and thicken your inner shield. Not to become cold or rigid, but to prevent hurts you could have stopped early. If you feel it's time to rebuild healthy personal boundaries, start with one small action today. Maybe a clear statement, a refusal, or a decision to stop tolerating something. If this content helped you reflect or gave you strength to act, leave a like to show you're on this journey. Share this video with someone exhausted from feeling overwhelmed in relationships, and subscribe to keep learning how to master life through Stoic principles, where respect begins with boundaries and peace begins with voicing what you need. Number 4, releasing the weight of ego, pride, and grudges. One of the most insidious yet profound burdens that rob us of inner peace is the weight of ego, pride, and unresolved grudges. These aren't as loud as physical pain, but seep deeply within, distorting how we see others and ourselves. Ego makes us overreact to feedback. Pride stops us from admitting fault, and grudges trap us in the past, preventing us from fully living in the present. If you've ever found yourself quick to anger, easily offended, or unsettled by simple remarks, you may be carrying what Stoics call the burden of an untrained ego. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you can become a prisoner of your emotions by clinging to anger, arrogance, or the need to prove yourself. Ironically, the more prideful someone is, the more fragile they often are. Their ego too large to admit fault, their pride too brittle to withstand critique. Stoicism teaches the opposite. The less you strive to defend your self-image, the more at peace you are. The less you need to prove you're right, the fewer arguments and less suffering you endure. Much of the emotional pain from feeling slighted doesn't come from others but from our own unchecked ego. Releasing ego doesn't mean diminishing your worth. It's realizing your true value lies not in how others see you, but in how you face yourself. A person of strength doesn't need to prove they're better than anyone. They know themselves well enough to ignore provocations. Their silence isn't weakness. It's a choice to preserve precious energy for meaningful pursuits, not pointless battles. This silence isn't surrender. It's a deliberate decision for tranquility over conflict, reason over pride, and letting go over holding on to what's past. Pride makes us vulnerable to the smallest slights. A rejection, a cold glance, an unanswered message can throw someone with a large ego into anger, confusion, or a sense of being insulted. But Epictetus said, if someone speaks ill of you and it's true, there's no need to be angry. If it's false, there's no need to care. This simple idea holds immense emotional freedom. When you see that reputation doesn't define your worth, you stop living for others' perceptions. And when you stop living to protect an image, you gain time to live authentically as yourself. Beyond ego and pride, another poison that erodes inner peace is unresolved grudges. Many hold on to old hurts for years, even a lifetime, as if they're part of their identity. They believe letting go means losing or that forgiving means weakness. But the truth is, those who hold grudges live in chains, while those who forgive are free. Seneca emphasized that forgiveness isn't for the other person, it's for you. You can't move far carrying a heavy backpack of anger and resentment. Letting go doesn't mean condoning wrong, it means refusing to let it control your emotions and choices any longer. When someone hurts you, you have two paths. One is to cling to the wound, feeding it with anger, blame, and hatred. The other is to observe it, understand it, and choose to let it go to live lightly. Ego pushes you toward the first path. Reason and emotional maturity guide you to the second. That's why Stoics don't live to win against others, but to conquer themselves. They don't let the past rule their future or allow those who hurt them to wield power over their emotions for another second. If you notice many of your negative emotions stem from a bruised ego, it's time to sit with yourself and ask, why do I feel offended? Am I craving validation? Am I trying to prove something? Honest answers reveal the core. Peace doesn't come from being treated right, but from choosing not to let mistreatment affect you. To do this, be gentle with yourself, not fighting emotions but observing them and letting them pass. If you've been drawn into unnecessary arguments, held on to a grudge too long, or reacted fiercely from wounded pride, you can start practicing release now. No grand gestures needed, just one thought. I don't need to be right. I just need peace. If this message sparks reflection or resonance, hit like as a commitment to yourself. Share in a comment what you're learning to let go. Sometimes sharing is the first step to freedom. And subscribe to continue forging inner strength with Stoic wisdom, where you don't need to defeat anyone, just yourself. Number 5, taking full responsibility for your reactions. Every situation in life has two distinct parts: what happens and how you react to it. The first is often beyond your control. Someone says something hurtful, the weather ruins your plans, a job falls through, or a trusted friend lets you down. These are objective realities of life you can't fully command. But the second part is the heart of Stoic philosophy, your reaction. This is where you have absolute power. Stoicism teaches that you're not obligated to change circumstances, but you are entirely responsible for how you respond to them. This isn't simple advice, it's a revolutionary choice. Instead of living like a victim swept by life's currents, you choose to be the master of your emotions, the one who takes charge. Epictetus emphasized that it's not events that make us suffer, but how we think about them. A remark from someone is just sound. Whether you take it as an insult or feedback is entirely up to you. You can't change how people speak, but you can change how you receive it. This leads to an uncomfortable truth. No one can make you angry unless you choose anger. No one can make you sad unless you choose to respond with sadness. It sounds harsh, but it's real. Your reactions are your choices, not anyone else's responsibility. We often blame external factors. We say, I'm upset because he was rude. I'm annoyed because they disrespected me. I'm stressed because work is overwhelming. But let's be honest, others may act wrongly, but your loss of control comes from not holding yourself steady, not from them remotely pressing an emotional button. Taking full responsibility for your reactions doesn't mean ignoring others' mistakes. It means refusing to let their behavior rule your mind. This gives you a power most never grasp, the power to choose your response. A true Stoic understands that all emotions stem from perception. When you feel offended, what's really happening? You've interpreted an action or word as a threat to your ego or worth. Then you react. But if you shift your perception, your emotions shift too. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, if you're pained by something external, the pain isn't from the thing itself, but from how you view it, and you can change that view at any moment. This isn't about denying emotions, but recognizing you hold the key to whether you open or close the door to suffering. Taking responsibility for your emotions doesn't mean you can't feel sad, angry, or anxious. It means you stop living as if those emotions are external forces you're powerless against. You're not obligated to rage when insulted. You can choose silence. You don't have to collapse when you fail. You can choose to rise. You don't need an apology to forgive. You can free yourself from anger with an inner decision. When you own your reactions, you live with greater intention. You don't act on instinct, you act with reason. You don't say things you'll regret. You choose measured words. You don't let a small event ruin your day. You learn to let it go. And you don't blame others for your feelings, knowing each reaction is a choice you can train. It's not easy, but like any skill, it takes time, discipline, and resolve. Look back at today. How many times did you react in ways you later regretted? How often did you let someone pull you out of balance with a single comment? How many times did you want to stay calm but failed? In those moments, you could blame them or you could see them as training. As Stoics often stress, every situation is a chance to practice. You're not failing, you're learning. If this message stirs something in you, hit like to mark the start of your transformation. Share in a comment a recent moment where you reacted instinctively and what you do differently if given another chance. And if you want to keep learning to master your emotions through the lens of Stoic philosophy, subscribe now to catch more valuable content. Because when you take responsibility for yourself, you begin living like a true warrior, not on a battlefield, but in your mind. Number 6, practicing empathy and compassion for others and yourself. In a world growing ever harsher, colder, and more reactive, empathy and compassion seem like rare luxuries. It's easy to criticize, judge, or attack others over a few lines of online text, and sometimes we carry that same harshness inward toward ourselves. When you're overly sensitive, you often spiral. You're hurt by others, then blame yourself for being weak, only to grow angry or withdraw further. But Stoic philosophy, though renowned for its rationality and self-control, is far from detached from human emotion. Instead, it lays the groundwork for a powerful form of compassion, not weak or dependent, but a kindness rooted in understanding. Practicing empathy and compassion for others and yourself is one of the most vital keys to overcoming excessive sensitivity and finding inner calm. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who dealt with all kinds of people daily, wrote that each morning you should remind yourself you'll encounter selfish, irritable, arrogant, deceitful, or ungrateful people. Yet you shouldn't let them make you angry. They act this way because they haven't seen the truth. This isn't blind forgiveness. It's a way of seeing life with understanding. Practicing compassion stops you from reacting harshly to others' negativity. You start seeing the bigger picture. Someone who acts poorly may be carrying a burden you can't see. Someone who hurts you may be hiding their own unresolved pain. This insight helps you stop taking their actions as personal attacks. Compassion doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It's not about letting others overstep or tolerating cruelty. Rather, it empowers you to set boundaries calmly and deliberately, not with anger, but with understanding. When you recognize others are hurting, you don't need to hurt alongside them. You don't have to mirror their negativity with your own. You simply maintain the clarity to keep their actions from disrupting your inner peace. Practicing compassion for others leads to a deeper place: self-compassion. This is where many modern Stoics go astray, thinking rationality means being tough on themselves, always in control, never wrong, never weak. But the harsher you are with yourself, the easier you fall into cycles of self-blame and doubt, which fuel overreactions when others touch the weaknesses you're trying to deny. Stoics don't ignore mistakes, but they don't beat themselves up over them either. They acknowledge errors, learn, and move forward with kindness. Epictetus stressed that everyone acts according to what they think is best at the time, even if it's misguided. Apply this to yourself, and you'll see that when you overreact, it's not because you're bad or deficient. It's because you haven't yet mastered the tools to handle emotions healthily. Instead of berating yourself with, "Why am I so weak?" learn to ask, "What do I need right now? What's this emotion trying to tell me?" Shifting your inner dialogue from criticism to understanding softens negative reactions, paving the way for calm and clearer direction. Empathy and compassion are skills, not innate traits. You can train them like a muscle, by observing others' behavior and wondering what pain they carry, and by examining yourself to uncover what inner hurt drives your strong reactions. With practice, you'll get pulled into less drama, stay unruffled by others' impatience, and crucially, stop hurting yourself every time emotions surge. Imagine being your own best friend. Do you deserve scolding for failing? Punishment for losing control? Number. You deserve guidance back to clarity, not with a stick, but with patience. When you treat yourself with kindness, you'll find it easier to extend that to the world. That's why deeply compassionate people are often the most resilient. They're not weak because of emotions, they're strong because they understand them. A practical step to start today: each day, write down 3 things you forgive yourself for. Maybe a thoughtless word, a burst of anger, or an unwise choice. Write not to dwell on faults, but to remind yourself you're learning. Also, note 3 things you choose to understand in others: someone who acted poorly today, someone who hurt you in the past, or someone you've judged harshly. These small acts soften your heart, reducing negative sensitivity by shifting your view of life from a series of threats to a chance to understand and grow. If this message resonates, hit like to affirm you're on the path to greater empathy, calm, and self-love. Share in the comments who you're learning to forgive, someone else or perhaps yourself. If you value what Stoic philosophy offers, subscribe to keep receiving tools to build inner strength, not by fighting emotions, but by understanding and transforming them. Number 7. Reframing negative thoughts. One of the primary reasons we become overly sensitive and react excessively is the unchecked cycle of negative thoughts that replay in our minds. We don't react to reality itself, but to what we think about that reality. A seemingly harmless comment can spiral into a complex narrative, loaded with assumptions like, "They don't respect me," "I'm not good enough," or "They're looking down on me." The catch is, these thoughts may not be true, yet they wield the power of absolute truth in our minds. In Stoic philosophy, learning to reframe thoughts is a critical life skill. No one can stop negative thoughts from arising, but you can learn to examine them, question them, and replace them with a calmer, more rational and life-affirming perspective. Epictetus famously said that we're not disturbed by events, but by the meaning we assign to them. This is key. You don't get angry because someone calls you unattractive. You get angry because you think their words might be true. You're not hurt because someone rejects you. You're hurt because you think you're unworthy of acceptance. If you view events more simply and lightly, negative emotions lose their grip. Instead of interpreting a cold glance as, "They hate me," you might think, maybe they're having a bad day. Instead of assuming, "I'm undervalued," you could ask, "How can I better demonstrate my worth?" The ability to reframe thoughts separates the emotionally vulnerable from the inwardly resilient. Marcus Aurelius, in his profound journal, repeatedly reminded himself that everything can be met with a mindset that fosters calm. When insulted, he didn't ask, Why did they say that to me? But rather, is what they said true? If so, I should improve. If not, it's irrelevant. This isn't just a way of thinking. It's a strategy for living. It frees you from being enslaved by negative thoughts, empowering you to master your emotions fully. In modern life, negative thoughts can strike anywhere. At work, in relationships, on social media, or even when you're alone. You get fewer likes on a post and think, no one cares about me anymore. Your boss points out a minor mistake, and you fear, I'm about to get fired. A friend declines your invitation, and you conclude, they don't like me anymore. These thoughts can flash in an instant, but if you don't pause to examine them, they'll drag you into anxiety, hurt, and negative reactions. The danger is that unchecked thoughts form beliefs, and once they become beliefs, you act as if they're unchangeable truths. Reframing thoughts requires you to stop and ask, is this thought true or just an emotional reaction? Is there another perspective I haven't considered? What would I say to a friend who had this thought? That last question is especially powerful, as you'll often realize you're harsher on yourself than you'd ever be with anyone else. You're overly critical, quick to believe the worst, and forget you can choose a fairer, kinder, calmer interpretation. Reframing isn't blind optimism. It's not about denying reality or painting everything rosy. It's the clarity to see that while you can't control what happens, you can control how you interpret and receive it. That's true strength. When criticized, ask, are they saying this because they truly know me? Or are they projecting their own frustration? When you fail, instead of thinking, I'm not good enough, consider, this is a chance to learn and grow. These small mental shifts, practiced regularly, transform how you experience life. Practice by writing down negative thoughts that arise each day. Jot them on paper or your phone, then engage with each one as if talking to a scared child. Ask, why do you think this? What's the evidence? Is there another way to see it? Doing this daily not only reduces unnecessary sensitivity, but also makes you truly self-possessed. Someone who isn't manipulated by emotions but guides them toward your chosen path. If this message helps you reflect, hit like to remind yourself you're learning to master your thoughts, not be mastered by them. Share in a comment a negative thought you once believed was true, but later realized was just your mind's creation. And subscribe to keep receiving content to build a resilient mind through Stoic principles, where every thought can be renewed and every emotion can be understood. Number 8, labeling and accepting emotions. One of the most common misconceptions about Stoic calm or composure is the idea that Stoics suppress or eliminate emotions. This is entirely untrue. Stoicism doesn't teach you to become an unfeeling machine or to ignore sadness, anger, or anxiety. Instead, it guides you to clearly identify every emotional state, name it, observe it, understand its root cause, and then decide how to act. This is a critical step in mastering emotions. If you can't name what you're feeling, you can't handle it rationally. And if you don't accept that you're experiencing those emotions, they'll control you unconsciously, leaving you unaware of what's driving you. Picture emotions as dark clouds in the sky. If you pretend they don't exist, they don't vanish. They build up, waiting to erupt. But if you face them and name them, this is anger, this is hurt, this is envy. You begin to separate yourself from the emotion and see it as a psychological phenomenon, not your essence. You stop saying, I'm an angry person, and start saying, I'm feeling anger. This small cognitive shift creates a vital distance between you and your emotions, empowering you to stay in control. Epictetus taught that we can't avoid emotions, but we can learn to observe them without being swept away. Naming an emotion turns a raw feeling into data your reason can process. For example, in the heat of anger, you might pause and think, I'm angry. Why? I feel disrespected. But is that true or is it my assumption? This questioning doesn't erase the emotion instantly, but it slows the reaction, giving you space to choose what to say, what to do, what to hold back. Accepting emotions means embracing your vulnerability. Many avoid facing emotions, fearing they'll seem weak. They think sadness makes them frail, anxiety makes them unresilient, or disappointment makes them immature. But emotions are a natural part of being human. The more you resist them, the more they overpower you. The more you confront them, the easier they are to transform. Stoics don't deny pain. They simply refuse to let it blindly dictate their actions. Accepting emotions fosters a powerful inner honesty. You no longer need to pretend you're okay when you're hurting, force a smile when you're angry, or hide fear behind a mask of indifference. Instead, you can be truthful with yourself. I'm insecure because I fear abandonment. I'm hurt because I feel unseen. I'm angry because I expected something unmet. This honesty doesn't weaken you. It strengthens you. Knowing where you stand lets you choose your next step. Moreover, naming emotions improves connections with others. Saying, "I feel sad" when you don't reply to my messages, instead of "you're always so cold," creates a healthier space for communication. Others don't feel attacked, and you don't feel pressured to uphold an image. This is how empathy and calm are nurtured, through emotional honesty and clear expression. Marcus Aurelius had a unique habit. Each night he wrote about his day's emotions, not to judge, but to recognize them. You can adopt this simple practice today. Before bed, take a few minutes to write, "What did I feel today? When was I angry? When was I happy? When was I anxious? What triggered these emotions?" This not only helps you reflect, but also reveals recurring emotional patterns, empowering you to adjust future reactions. When you learn to label and accept emotions, you stop being pulled by every external trigger. You become an observer, a manager, and ultimately the director of your inner life. You no longer react impulsively to insults. You don't let small slights fuel prolonged anger, and you stop blaming yourself for feeling emotions. Instead, you treat yourself like a trusted companion, navigating every emotional wave, learning to move through them without losing yourself. If this content helps you understand yourself better, hit like to fuel your inner journey. Share in the comments an emotion you've recently dared to face, fear, hurt, or anger, instead of avoiding it. And subscribe if you want more powerful Stoic tools to live with emotions consciously, proactively, and humanely. Number 9, cultivating deep self-awareness. Deep self-awareness, the ability to observe yourself honestly without judgment, is the cornerstone of emotional intelligence and inner calm. You can't master emotions if you don't know where they come from. You can't curb overreactions if you don't understand the inner triggers driving them. Stoics grasped this early on. They knew that to live a peaceful life, you can't operate on autopilot. You must become a tireless observer of yourself, not to control everything rigidly, but to deeply understand what's happening within. Marcus Aurelius wrote that each night you should ask yourself, where did my mind falter today? Which desires did I overcome? Did I act from reason or emotion in specific moments? This isn't just self-questioning, it's a ritual of mindfulness. Only by reviewing your actions can you uncover their motives. And only by understanding those motives can you change them sustainably. Stoics don't seek change externally. They start within. They don't blame circumstances. They analyze their responses to them. They aren't obsessed with others. They focus on dissecting themselves. Deep self-awareness doesn't come from reading books or hearing advice. It comes from your willingness to sit quietly and be brutally honest with yourself. You must dare to face the unflattering parts of you: envy, arrogance, baseless anger, or fragility masked as strength. No one can do this for you. The courage to look inward is often harder than criticizing others. But because it's so challenging, the reward is immense. You'll know your strengths, weaknesses, needs, and limits. Then you won't react hastily. You'll respond with conscious choice. One powerful way to build self-awareness is daily journaling. It sounds simple, but is profoundly effective. Each night, write about 3 moments when you felt emotionally unsteady. Ask, what truly triggered that feeling? Was it justified? Has this happened in similar situations before? Over time, you'll spot patterns. Maybe you're hurt by rejection, lose control when criticized, or feel anxious around negative energy. These patterns are your inner map. The better you know it, the less you'll be swept away. Beyond writing, practice the inner pause, a technique Stoics highly valued. When strong emotions arise, instead of reacting instantly, ask, where is this feeling coming from? Is it tied to my past? What is it trying to protect in me? Creating a gap between stimulus and response reclaims your self-mastery. With regular practice, this becomes a new reflex, one guided by inner clarity, not external chaos. Another key to self-awareness is accepting that you don't fully know yourself. Many behaviors stem from unconscious roots, memories, beliefs, old wounds you may not see. Stoics never assume they've fully understood themselves. They maintain a learner's mindset, constantly reflecting and open to change when they uncover something off. This inner flexibility doesn't weaken them. It makes them more authentic, resilient, and free from a stubborn ego. With deep self-awareness, you grow gentler in judging others. Knowing your own flaws, you're kinder to others' mistakes. Understanding your own irrational reactions, you're less angered by others' lack of reason. This is the beautiful ripple effect of self-understanding. It makes you kinder, not by effort, but because you see we're all carrying unresolved burdens, each trying to improve in our own way. Self-awareness also frees you from seeking external validation. When you know yourself, you don't need others' approval to feel worthy. When you know what brings you joy, you don't chase others' standards. When you know your limits, you don't force yourself to fit where you don't belong. This is the pinnacle of personal freedom, living by your inner values, not swayed by the crowd's expectations. It's the path to stop overreacting to judgment, rejection, or life's challenges. If this content stirs something in you, hit like to honor the value of knowing yourself. Share in the comments something you've discovered about yourself that you once overlooked. Your story might inspire others. And if you want to keep building a steadfast inner life with Stoic principles, subscribe for more practical, profound tools to befriend yourself. Number 10, creating a pause before you react. Between an event and your reaction lies a fleeting moment, a pause so brief most people overlook it. Yet in that moment, you hold the power to choose. React on autopilot or act with deliberate awareness. Stoics view this pause as a sacred boundary, the divide between those swept away by the world and those who master themselves. In today's fast-paced world, where instant replies to texts, emails, or insults are expected, the ability to create a pause before reacting is a rare strength anyone can cultivate. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You don't have to respond to everything that happens to you." This idea alone is a profound shift. You're not obligated to argue when attacked. You don't need to voice your opinion in every debate. You aren't required to correct every misunderstanding about you. By resisting instinctive reactions, you don't lose. You're choosing what deserves your energy, what to ignore, and what truly warrants a response. That brief moment before reacting is where you reclaim your self-mastery. Reaction is instinct. The pause is wisdom. Reactions are swift, often driven by emotions: anger, hurt, pride, fear. The pause is slow, rooted in awareness, that you're feeling something, but you're not its slave. Many tense or conflictual situations could be resolved with just a few seconds of silence. Don't speak immediately. Don't text back instantly. Don't lash out the moment you're hurt. In those seconds, ask, where will this reaction lead me? Does it align with my values? Is there a better response? Creating a pause doesn't mean avoiding or suppressing emotions. It simply gives you time for the emotional peak to pass. Psychological research shows intense emotions, like anger, often peak within 90 seconds. If you can wait out those 90 seconds without reacting, you'll regain reason. Stoics understood this over 2 millennia ago, not with timers, but through meticulous inner observation. They knew that without time to reflect, you're swept into emotional waves like a boat without a rudder. A simple, effective way to practice the pause is to focus on your breath. When you feel the urge to react, whether through words, actions, or expressions, stop and take 3 deep breaths. That's it. Breathing anchors you in the present, breaking the cycle of old reflexes. In those 3 breaths, you can sense where you are, gauge your emotional intensity, and decide how to act in line with your inner values. This is practical, requiring no lofty philosophy, just consistent practice to make it your new reflex. Beyond breathing, journaling can strengthen your ability to pause in real life. Write about situations where you reacted too quickly, then ask, if I had paused for a few seconds, how might things have differed? Repeating this question daily trains your brain to prioritize clarity over impulsivity. You'll speak less, listen more. You'll stop feeling the need to defend yourself in every scenario. Best of all, you'll no longer feel drained after exploding because you won't explode anymore. The pause is also where you show compassion for yourself and others. By not saying something hurtful, you protect relationships. By not acting in anger, you shield yourself from regret. You pause not out of weakness, but because you're strong enough to choose a nobler path. Stoics' new reactions erode trust, disrupt calm, and pull you from the self you're building. But a pause, even a single second, can keep you anchored in wisdom. Recall a recent moment when you felt hurt. Maybe someone said something harsh, rejected you, or disrespected you. If you reacted instantly, what happened? If you had paused, breathed, and asked, is this worth it? What might have changed? These questions aren't for self-blame, but to show you always have a small space to choose. Your power lies in that space. If this video gives you a practical tool for managing emotions, hit like to nurture the habit of pausing in daily life. Share in the comments a situation where you wish you'd pause before reacting. Your experience might guide someone else learning self-mastery. And subscribe to keep receiving practical Stoic insights, where every action and response stems from clarity. You don't need to become a stone statue to be called resilient. You don't need to suppress emotions to be seen as strong. What you need is to learn to live with emotions without being controlled by them. What you need is the ability to stand steady amid life's storms without losing yourself. And that starts from within, from how you think, how you react, from the quiet choices no one sees but that shape your entire life. If you've watched this far, I believe one thing. You genuinely want to change, not to become perfect, but to become a steadier, more serene version of yourself. No one can do this for you. No philosophy works if you don't apply it. So don't just listen, act. Pick one thing from this video and practice it, even once. Maybe it's pausing before reacting. Maybe it's naming an emotion. Maybe it's forgiving. Or simply sitting down to write a few lines of dialogue with yourself. If this video touched something in your heart, hit like as a sign you're ready to move forward. Comment to share what you want to change in how you live, think, or feel. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel to stay with this journey. Because building inner strength isn't a one-day task, it's a lifelong pursuit.